Viewer Walter just emailed me to say he's concerned about buying a Tesla because there are no buttons or stalks, and he wants to know whether he can operate the EV totally via voice commands. Thank you, Walter. This is actually a really good question. So while I've already replied personally, let me expand on that very subject here so it can be of more benefit to a wider audience. Can you control a Tesla Model 3 or Y using voice commands only? I'm Dave, this is Dave Takes It On. Okay, I have to own up here, I have the Model S, which has a driver display right in front of me, and it has stalks. But I've driven the Model 3 and the Y extensively, so I'm qualified to advise you. The very first thing I would say is that almost everyone at some time had a big home computer. It was a big box plugged into the mains, had a big monitor attached, was controlled by a wired keyboard and a wired mouse. For printing, the printer was connected to the mains and hardwired back into that computer. For internet, we had a modem that was hardwired into the computer and the other end plugged into a phone line. And that was the standard setup for several decades, and we just got used to it. Go to any house now, the vast majority no longer have this computer. They've almost all gone. Well, gamers still will. Video editors like me still do. But the vast majority of people no longer use a computer. For some of us, we now just use a smartphone. And for those needing anything more, we almost all now have a tablet or laptop of some sort. And the difference is huge. No big bulky screen plugged into the mains. It's on our smartphone or tablet. No keyboard. That's gone. No mouse. We just don't need one anymore. We'll swipe. No modem. It's connected via mobile data or wirelessly to our home internet. Plugged into a different room somewhere else. Same with the printer. That's usually hidden away somewhere where it's not so obtrusive, certainly no longer attached to our smartphone or tablet. Many of us have gone even further with Siri or Alexa. We no longer have any need to type on the screen with a finger. I think you get the message. That transformation was a game changer. From massive boxes plugged in to a tiny handheld device that fits in your pocket. And from a mechanical keyboard to voice activation from anywhere in the house or out on the road. In that context, the buttons, knobs, levers and stalks that have adorned our cars for decades are as useless as the keyboard and mouse. No longer needed, well past their sell-by date. We just cling on to them, claiming, oh, the Tesla alternative is too weird. Imagine if we'd said that to tablets. Whoa, where's the keyboard? Where's the mouse? I want them back. Okay, so this is the future. One day we will wonder why we stuck with buttons and stalks for so long. Were we mad? But down to reality, the cockpit is nowhere near as dependent on the screen as most people fear. Oh, that's the media for you. Let's see what's there. So many people say I cannot be doing with operating the screen every single time I need to adjust the seat or steering wheel. And so they shouldn't. In many households, one partner is in total control of the family car. They drive it to work, they drive it whenever the family's in it, they drive it when on holiday. And forgive me for stating the flipping obvious, if you're the only driver, then what are you doing constantly adjusting the wheel and the seat? Have your legs grown or your arms shrunk? The vast majority of drivers adjust their seat once, adjust the steering wheel once, adjust the internal mirror and door mirrors once, maybe set the heating the way we like it, set the radio station to the channel they listen to most, and very rarely ever touch the controls again. It is a total work of fiction to say that you have to use the screen to adjust your seat or mirrors or steering wheel several times a week or a day, well, in fact, ever again. The vast majority of EVs also have a profile that you can set up on them. So when you first get in the car, you sit in it and you do spend 5 minutes with the main display. You adjust your seat forwards, backwards, up and down, tilt, rake, backrest, everything including the headrest. Then you also adjust the steering wheel forward, backward, up and down. You adjust your door mirror, your interior mirror. You then press a button which says, save this as a profile. It asks you to name it. And here, obviously, you put in your name. In my case, it says Dave, and save it. Now, whenever I get in my car, because of the way we drive, 99% of the time, there's a chance it's already in my profile. But if someone else has been in it and moved everything, all I do is just press a single button on the display which says Dave before I set off, and it just instantly returns everything to the way I like it. Now, with some cars, you can set additional things like degrees of brake regeneration or steering effort or suspension softness settings. And every time you get in your car, it will always be right. Now, some families, obviously, it's very different. You will have a partner, and you maybe have your children who will from time to time drive the family car. And this is no problem to a modern EV because you can set additional profiles. So if you have a partner, get them to sit in the car on the first day, adjust everything once, manually using the screen to exactly where they want it, and then save that as a profile for your partner. If your children are going to be driving your car, the family car, get them to sit in the car, set up their own profiles. I also in mind set an additional profile. It's called sleep. If ever I pull into a charger and I wait around for it to charge, I occasionally like to take a bit of a snooze. So I've set up a separate profile, call it sleep, and if I press the sleep profile, it moves my seat back to the furthest extent. It lowers it as low as it can go. It lowers the back rest until it's as horizontal as it will go, moves the steering wheel forward and up out of the way, so that I can just now lay back and have my snooze, setting the alarm for when the car will be finished. And when the alarm goes off, I simply press Dave on the profile and magically everything just returns to normal and I'm ready to set off driving again. Simple. So where do people get this idea from? They're constantly having to use the main display to adjust things. Oh, it's an absolute joke. The vast majority of people, unless their legs grow or their arms grow or shrink, then they are going to have one setting and will leave it that way virtually for the life of the car. But let's have a look at what you might need to adjust. Now again, different EVs have different settings. I'm going to work with mine for the moment, which is fairly representative. My headlights are automatic. If it's dark, they come on. If it's light, they go off. I don't ever have to touch them. My car also has auto main beam and dip beam. If I'm out on a country road, there are no lights ahead of me, either red tail lights showing someone ahead of me or white headlights coming towards me, then my car will automatically switch the headlights into main beam. But the second the car appears, either because I've just gone round a bend and there's now one in front of me or one's coming towards me with the headlights, mine dip automatically. I don't have any control. I don't need to do anything. It is fully automatic. Now, I do on mine have a stalk for my windscreen wipers, but I very, very rarely ever have to use it. My windscreen wipers are set to automatic. You can adjust when they come on and the speed and everything automatically. And there is a rain sensor on the screen. As soon as it starts raining, the wipers will start and they will then operate at the relevant speed for the severity of the rain. On occasions, I do actually need to override it. It might not be raining, but the windscreen might need a wash, and for that, I do have a button on the stalk, but guess what? On a car without a stalk, that button is now on your steering wheel. It's the windscreen wiper button. You can use it for a one-off wipe, or you can use it for the screen wash and a wipe. But it's there. And it's even handier to reach than reaching round for me for the stalk to press the end button. In my car, I can operate things like the interior lights with a voice command. In my car, it's turn dome lights on and they come on, turn dome lights off and they go off. Other cars allow you to use much greater use of the lights with voice activation, where you can turn on headlights or fog lights on voice command. The climate control is probably the easiest one to operate. Now, once again, the idea of constantly adjusting the temperature and air distribution is total fallacy. For the vast majority of us, if the windscreen is not fully misted up, the standard temperature settings will probably be all that you need on each of your journeys. I don't even need to adjust the controls in the car to demist the windscreen. See, because if it's really cold, really wet or damp or dark, I will always activate the cabin preheat function from my app while I'm sitting in the warmth and comfort of my home. And there's one button on my app, it says demist. Guess what it does? So if I do need to demist the windows, I can do that before I even walk out to the car, so that when I arrive, the cabin is warm, battery is also preheated, and all the windows are fully clear. I also get the added benefit of a warm seat and a warm steering wheel. So once again, I can operate some of the functions before I even get in the car, so I don't have to use those functions inside the car. By the way, if I'm feeling a bit chilly, the voice command is increase cabin temperature, and the temperature jumps a preset 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's it. Now, the one that baffles most people is the gear control. This is the lever, knob or button that you use to tell your car whether you want to go forwards or backwards, park or neutral. But here, modern EVs have amazing inventions on board, and the first one of those is they have cameras absolutely everywhere. In most cars, they've got 6, 8, even 10 cameras facing forwards, backwards, sideways, up and down, even inside the car. And most cars also have some form of driver assist system. Now, with Tesla, this might be autopilot, but Tesla can also take that one step further. Their autopilot is capable of so much more than adaptive cruise control. And so when you get in a Tesla, you sit in the seat, it knows you're there, it turns certain functions on, but when you want to drive, you press the brake pedal to activate the whole system. It will instantly know which way you should be going. It's not rocket science. If you're parked in your drive, facing your garage, then the only way you can go if the garage door is closed is backwards. Duh! If you've reversed into your drive and your car is facing the road and the garage is behind you with the door closed, the only way you can go is forward. So in these cases, what the car will do is select the most logical direction to set your gear selector into before you even decide which way you're going. Now, obviously, in a supermarket car park, it's got a free choice. So, assuming there are no other cars around blocking you in, cars will normally always select forward as a matter of course, knowing that about 90% of the time that will be the correct move. But even if it makes totally the wrong choice or cannot make the choice, and you have to select it on the display, it is one single touch of the control. You don't need to be switching backwards and forwards, forward and reverse while you're driving along in your normal driving. You may set reverse manually on the display when you want to park, but my Tesla and all others have an auto park facility where it will detect that there is a car parking space suitable and big enough for your car. It will offer it to you on the main display when you stop, and if you press the button to say go, it will park for you. One touch of the display and your car parks. All this rubbish about backwards and forwards, in and out, reverse, forward, it's all absolute total myth and fallacy. In a typical parking maneuver, if you are doing it all manually, you may select forward and reverse gears once each, or at the most 2 or 3 times each. But as soon as you set off driving, particularly if you're going long distance, you probably won't use that reverse function for maybe several hours. We really do need to think about what we're saying, and the idea that every single thing has to be done on the screen, that's a total fallacy. So what controls are on the steering wheel? Well, you have indicators left and right. You have a screen wipe and wash button. You have a voice activation button. You have a button to select which mode you are in for the main screen, like the main display, to switch into. And for most people, everything that you need on an average journey will be right at your fingertips on the steering wheel directly in front of you. Now, we do get people saying, oh, if you try and get your indicators in the middle of a roundabout, etc., etc. Majority of us don't do that. We tend to indicate before we get into a roundabout, and that's the one we're still indicating when we leave. And as soon as we turn the wheel to leave the roundabout, it cancels the indicators anyhow for you without you having to touch it. By pressing a button once on the roundabout, which might occur maybe 3 or 4 times in a whole journey of several hours, that's hardly what I call having to operate everything off your main display all the time. Now, I gave Walter a piece of advice and I suggested he goes to a Tesla centre and has a test drive in whichever model he thinks he's interested in. Tesla has a really simple system of arranging test drives for you. They are always unaccompanied. No Tesla representative, salesman, agent of any sort will be in the car alongside you when you set off. Test drives are typically booked for an hour long. And in case people get lost, you will normally be shown a single button on the navigation system on the display, which you can press that will navigate you on the sat-nav back to the dealer. Please use these test drives. In some centres, they're now even unmanned. You turn up, you activate everything through an app on the phone, and the car that's designated to you will unlock when it's identified you, and you'll be able to sit in it and drive without any human being anywhere in sight. So I would suggest to you, as I did to Walter, give it a try. Have a test drive. Don't give it 5 minutes round the block. Give it the full hour. Test it in all the various scenarios and see just how often you actually have to reach for the display to activate anything. Use the voice activation to find out what you can and can't control via voice command. Mine, for example, I still keep asking to turn on the headlights at my command. I keep getting a message saying, sorry, that function is not available at this time. I keep trying it because one day I may get an over-the-air update that activates that particular function, and I'll then be able to operate it by voice command whenever I need. I've actually never needed it anyway. But the whole point is that if you have something on your car that you can't currently operate by voice command, give it a short while with Tesla, and it is most likely to be added via an over-the-air update. But just spend some time in the car that you're going to be spending 40 or 50,000 pound on, and it will be with you for the next 2, 3 or 4 years for all your motoring needs. Well, now here we've covered the key features of what can easily and cannot at all be controlled by voice activation, but the list is by no means endless. There are many functions that you can operate via voice command which are just too numerous to mention. Elon Musk does have a wicked sense of humour, so a favourite one often quoted is "open the butthole." It's a common one and it impresses some people. It simply means open up the charging flap. But the number of voice commands is absolutely huge, and the vast majority of us do not use anywhere near enough. I find with SatNav, I do use it an awful lot, in fact, virtually always. I just press a voice activation button, I get a beep, I say navigate to. Recent example, I had to go to the hospital for a test, and it selects the hospital, transfers it onto the main screen, and it then allows me to set off driving on the right course. I don't need to touch the main display to get the sat-nav working and set up for where I want to go. Likewise, if I'm driving along, I'm in need of sustenance, a fancy McDonald's or a Starbucks, command is press the button, beep, navigate to McDonald's, and it'll give me a list of all the McDonald's within a reasonable range, and the map display will change to show me a map of those, and they'll be labelled A, B, C, D, E, and F, etc. on the main screen, so I can see exactly where they are. I can then either command select A or just press the button on the screen if I choose to, and it will navigate to that particular McDonald's. I think you'll find, Walter, that the majority of functions don't ever need to be used on any drive, and the few that do, a lot of them can be controlled via voice activation. But you'll always find some that you really want that aren't controllable. As I say, with a Tesla, just wait for the next over-the-air update. Unfortunately, that's life. You never get everything you want in any device or appliance ever, or sometimes just not straight away. Well, thank you for your inquiry, Walter. I hope this has been of interest to you, and particularly others, and I hope that the least it will do is convince you, if you are thinking of having a Tesla but are put off by various scare stories, that you do actually just go down there and try it for yourself. My brother did. He lives over in America, and he chose not to buy a Tesla because he did hire one for a day and he used it and he didn't like the no display in front of the driver and everything being on the main screen. And he ended up buying a BMW. It was still an electric car, it was an i4 M60. But he decided that that particular car was a better fit for him. And that to me is absolutely fine. I'm not a Tesla fanboy totally. I just find at the moment that the Tesla has far more features and better features than any other car I've ever driven for my particular use and needs at this moment in time. Other people will have different needs and different uses and different requirements. And for them, a different EV might well be the very best thing. And for some, it might not be an EV at all. Good luck to all of them. Any EV driver gets a thumbs up from me, and anyone who turns down an EV but having thoroughly examined it and checked it out still gets a thumbs up from me. Just not right for you at the moment. Well, thanks very much for watching. And if you have enjoyed this video, please click the like button. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe. I'm Dave.